Hey, welcome back. I'm Carissa, and if you're new here, I have made an intro video about this Master Gardener training series, just going over the overview of what this series is about, so I encourage you to check that out if you haven't seen it yet. So today's topic is the basics of botany. Like I said, I am not a scientist or a professor. I am giving you the overview of what my master training has included so far. The training on botany was a little overwhelming for myself. It doesn't come naturally to me to understand these things. So it was a bit of a challenge, but the speaker did an amazing job of going over the basics of botany. So here I am to share those with you today. So the first category of botany that we were studying, and I've got my notes down here that are going to help me. So the first category of botany that we were looking at was anatomy. So that is just the study of the structure of a plant. We are all very familiar with a few of those: stem, branch, roots, leaves, buds, and that is the basic knowledge of what anatomy is for plants. So understanding all of these, knowing the purpose of a root, knowing the purpose of a stem, knowing the purpose of a leaf, reproductive organ, really allows us to give the plant what it needs. So here I have an image showing you the above ground portion of a plant, and that would be the shoot, and then the below portion of the plant, which is the roots. And like I said, understanding the makeup of a plant really helps us to understand not only how to grow these plants, but how to make these plants thrive. Okay, so above ground we have our shoot, and the main portion is the stem. Off of there are the branches, and then we've got the leaves, sometimes fruit and flowers and buds, and the apical bud is just the top, and that is where the newest growth is going to come. Okay, so the basics of plant anatomy. Stem. What is the function of a stem? We know that it would hold and support the plant and the leaf. And similarly, the roots also have a function. They are there to anchor your plant, to stabilize your plant, and also to obtain water and nutrients. They also help in the respiration of oxygen, release carbon dioxide, produce hormones which affect plant growth and development. So as you can see, all of these different parts of the plant have their own purpose, and understanding what those purposes are really help us to give that plant what it requires for growth. And now we get into leaves. What is the purpose of a leaf? A leaf is there to provide energy for the plant. It is how it is going to harness that energy from the sun, a process we call photosynthesis. So the next category, I would say, is plant physiology, which is the study of plant function. What does a plant do? What are their hobbies? I'm totally kidding. So the three functions of a plant are photosynthesis, respiration, and transpiration. Photosynthesis, we are aware of, that is that energy harnessing process a plant does in order to thrive. You could say respiration is the opposite of photosynthesis. It is the process of releasing that energy. Carbohydrates combine with the oxygen and then are released from the plant in respiration. Transpiration is an interesting process, and one that I wasn't aware of before. So this is a way of the plant losing water vapor by evaporation from the leaves. So it is releasing, there are guard cells, and it opens up, I think it's called the stomata, and it is releasing that water vapor in order to conserve in a drought or a water restricted time for that plant. Super, super interesting and exciting to know about what these plants are capable of. The next category within botany would be taxonomy or nomenclature, which is just the fancy way of saying the naming of plants. The way it was explained to me in this training session is us as humans love to categorize. We love to put things in their boxes, into their neat and tidy little folders, and it doesn't always work, which is funny too. So our way of understanding this big wide world that is around us is to identify what it is and where it fits in with relation to the other things. So we are classifying things based on their relationship to other plants and also by their characteristics, which are unique. Then there's a hierarchy for these plants. The largest category would obviously be the kingdom. And then from there, we've got the class and the order, the family. We might start to get a little bit more familiar at this point with plant names. And then the genus, species, and then at the very bottom, or the cultivar or variety of that plant and the name. So on this image I have here, the kingdom is quite large. There are huge amounts of different individuals within that kingdom. But as we get into the smaller circle, near the bottom of the screen, we can see that the characters increase and they are becoming more specific, more related to each other as you sort of identify these and categorize them into these different areas. We briefly talked about pollination, and that is the process where pollen is transferred from the anther to the stigma, and again, a necessary process in order to produce fruit. We then categorized fruit, and there are many different types. There are the simple fleshy fruits, which would be cherry, peach, tomato, kiwi. Tomato is a fruit. Apple, strawberry, raspberry, and pineapple. And then we have our dry fruits, which is actually the legume family. Peas and beans, thistles, and nuts are part of this category. So thinking about a peanut, that is part of the legume family. So you would say by this definition, you would say a peanut is actually a fruit. Very interesting, wouldn't you think? And then to wrap up this topic, we also went through nutrients that plants need to grow. 3 primary nutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. I think most of us are familiar with that. It's always on our bag when we're buying fertilizers at the store. Most of us know what those are. We don't always know what they are for. So nitrogen would be responsible for vegetative growth, meaning leaves. Phosphorus would contribute to root growth and flowering. And potassium, lastly, is there to help with flowering, fruit, and overall plant health. Now, the last part of botany is plant ecology, which is the relationship between plants and their physical and biotic environment. So this is where it gets interesting for us gardeners. We want to know how this plant can adapt or live and thrive, hopefully, in our climate or gardening environment yard, right? If you have ever gone out on a hike in your neighborhood where it is mostly native plants, those plants thrive because they are growing in what they thrive in, right? The problem arises when we want to put something exotic or non-native into our yard and we don't have the requirements that that plant needs in order to thrive. But of course, that's where the fun is as well. We want to push the limit and push the envelope and put all these different plants into our yard that wouldn't natively grow in our yard. So studying a single plant and understanding where it came from, where it is native to, what that environment and climate looks like is super helpful to us as gardeners, understanding what that plant needs and requires to grow. All right, and then we looked at the anatomy of a flower and all of the different pieces in a flower. We talked about how the stamen is your male parts of the flower for the reproductive organs, and the pistil would be the female part, and how both of those are needed to make a complete flower, which just means that it can reproduce on its own. A perfect flower would be a flower that has the pistil and the stamen, both of the reproductive organs a flower needs in order to reproduce. And then similarly, an imperfect flower would be missing one of those 2 organs. So within plant identification nomenclature, we are looking at certain things in order to identify that plant or to classify that plant. So looking at a leaf really helps us to determine what type of plant it is. We're looking at the arrangement of a leaf. Where are the leaves on the stem? How are they arranged? Are they opposite, alternative, and all different types? And then looking at the leaf margin, the outside edge of the leaf, that will help us determine and classify and identify what plant it is. The form would be the setup of the leaf. Some are shaped like a palm, some are very oval, some are very round, all different shapes. And then the veins, a lot of us can identify different plants by their veining, which is a beautiful, beautiful part of a plant. And then lastly, their shape. The shape of the leaf is very helpful in determining what type of plant it is and where to categorize that plant. So that is my overview of very, very, very basic botany. Like I said, it is just my goal to go over what I am learning for your interest, just to show you what is involved in Master Gardener training. There are many, many more resources you could get into this. You could study, you could go to a university and really do many years learning just about basic botany for plants. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was interesting. My next episode will be covering soil. Have a great day. Bye.